Welcome to the MLTI Slam Show. I'm Jared, and today is Thursday, December 15th. In the MLTI Slam Show, we learn from students just like you from all over Maine. And we'll begin today by following along with Mr. Kelly from Nokomis, who will teach us about making a chart with Google Sheets, which you can use Google Sheets to collect data, organize it, and create a chart. Then viewers can take the Slam exam, a chance to win prizes by answering questions about the show. Then we'll, of course, wrap up the show with the Slam demo, Be Internet Awesome, which teaches kids the fundamentals of digital citizenship and safety so they can explore the online world with confidence. Now, please, of course, mute your mic, and if you have questions, enter them in the chat so our moderator can respond during the show. And remember, your account is connected to everything you type, so be kind and have fun. So welcome, Mr. Kelly. Glad you could join us. What do you have to share with us today?
Thank you so much, Jared. So I am subbing today for another student, Caitlin, who's out today, not able to do this today. So we know a lot of kids are out around the state for illnesses. So we wanted to make sure we still had our Slam show. So here we are. I'm going to sub in for her. I'm going to be talking about Google Sheets, how we can collect information like in Google Forms, connect that, and make a chart of that. I've had a number of students ask me, how do you make charts, Mr. Kelly? I need this for my science class, for my math class. And so we're going to go through all those steps on how you do that process. So the very first thing I'm going to do is share my tab right here. Okay, so I just have regular google.com up. It's good. Okay, so if I'm going to make a Google Sheet, which I'm going to collect some information, organize that information, and then share that information in a chart. And we're going to go through all those steps. Step number one, I'm going to go up to sheets.new. And what that does is that gives me a new blank Google Sheet. So just like this. This is what I'm going to start with. And then from here, we're going to name this. And I'm just going to call this one a sample chart. The purpose of this today is just to kind of show you guys how to make charts, how to make, collect some data, do things with it, and then make a chart from that. So the first thing I'm going to do, so here's our raw spreadsheet, and you may have used spreadsheets before. You may have not had a lot of good reasons to. They're very powerful. There's a lot of things you can do with spreadsheets. Because there's so many features, they're also a little bit complicated. So we'll do things step by step together and walk through all that process. The first thing to do is we need to collect data. Now, if you've already have a bunch of data, you have a bunch of information, you can go through that process. You can write it down. Absolutely, you can enter it right here. I'm actually going to create a form so I can share that with students and collect data that way. Just a quick way of doing it. I'm going to click Tools, Create New Form right here. So a form is just a way to collect information that's going to go into my spreadsheet. And so for this one, we're not going to do a sample chart. We're going to do, favorite ice cream. That's going to be our question for the day. Now, of course, you could do whatever question you want. A million different questions you could ask and different ways to ask them. But for today, we're just going to do a really simple one. What is your favorite type of ice cream? Okay. So we're going to do two different pieces of information. What grade are you in and what your favorite type of ice cream is. So here's the favorite ice cream question. I'm going to go down to Untitled. I'm going to say, what grade? Now, when I start doing grade, you'll notice here, these things will pop up. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and I can add all those. So here's different options: freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I can also say, well, there might be an eighth grader, so eighth grade. And down here where it says add option, I could say another one, seventh grade. And I could keep on going. I could just keep going further and further to have all the different grade levels that I might want to include there. If you notice here where it says add other, I wouldn't want to use this in this case. What that does is give you an open-ended spot that you could just enter anything in there. And so in this case, we want to use a multiple choice. So we can only select one of these options here. You can only select one. You can't be in two grades at the same time, but that will give me that option there. While we're talking about these types of questions, you'll see here, there's many different types, right? Multiple choice only allows one answer. Checkboxes allow more than one. Let's say the question was something like, what pets do you have? Well, you might have more than one option there, right? And so checkboxes will allow you to do multiples of those. Drop down is just a pull down, and we could use that if we wanted to. Let's say we did a drop down here, and you'll see these switch, and they will only, again, allow one option there. That's another choice. File upload, just like it sounds like, you can upload different types of files. Short answer, if I wanted an open-ended answer. Now, I don't want open-ended in this case because we're going to create a chart. We're just going to have our grades on one axis and our types of ice cream, the favorite types of ice cream on the other axis. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm now going to make a new question. So over in the right, this little circle with a plus in it. Click on that. And my next question is, what is your favorite ice cream? Now, if I leave it as a short answer, somebody can type in anything they wanted. And the problem with that would be is if I typed in vanilla and somebody typed in vanilla and misspelled it, or somebody typed in just a V, period, you get all these different options. They wouldn't actually match up, line up. So we're definitely going to want a multiple choice again, so we have to choose one. So I'm going to put some choices in here. We'll put in vanilla. We'll put in strawberry. Oops, spell. We'll put chocolate. I am going to add an other here only because somebody could type a new type of flavor that I'm not thinking of. Somebody put in Rocky Road or cookie dough or something else. Now, the only drawback of that is if two people typed in Rocky Road and they spelled it differently, the computer is going to see that as two different entries. That's what we call garbage data or data sanitation, where you would go in visually and look and say, oh yeah, they really both meant Rocky Road, even though one spelled it a little bit differently. So you'd want to make sure you clean those up. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So both of these questions, both what grade you're in and what's your favorite types of ice cream, you're going to want to click required. You want them to answer those, because if you don't have an answer in there, you won't have any data to work with. I'm going to click on that again. Here's my required. And so now I've got my favorite type of ice cream question. Here's the different grades. Here's different types of ice creams. And I can keep going in and adding more. I could keep adding as many as I wanted. We'll type in cookie dough, just because. You can keep going. And again, you can make that list as long as you want it. They still only choose one. A couple other little things in here while we're in Google Forms. Google Forms is pretty powerful. And remember, all the information you collect here can go directly to that spreadsheet. But I want to make it a little bit prettier. Right now I've got this purple background, which is fine. If I want to change the looks of it, and you can do this at any time, it won't affect the content of it. Up in the upper right, you see this little icon, looks like a little palette, a little artist palette. Click on that. And so here are different things. I can choose different fonts. I can choose different sizes. I can even choose header images. So let's say I want, we're doing ice cream, so we'll do these jelly beans here. That's kind of cool. We'll insert that. So now it's got jelly beans header. But again, I could go search for ice cream images if I wanted to, or all kinds of different stuff. There's all these different options here. But you can basically make it a little bit prettier. It doesn't change the content. You can come back and change it at any time. The other thing we want to do while we're in here, we'll see our responses. We don't have anything yet, which we will fix in a second. Here's our settings. And the big thing here is under responses is you want to make sure collect email addresses is not on, because you want to be able to put this form, this questionnaire, out to everybody, and they can fill it in and answer that. And we're also going to uncheck this to restrict it to certain people. Okay, we've got our questions. What grade are you in, and what's your favorite ice cream? Now I'm going to share this with people. A couple different options. I can click this little eyeball icon up here, and when I do that, it's going to look like this. There's my form. You may have seen this before that you could share. I could send that to somebody. I could put a link on a website. I could just email it, however you want to get that to them. And they would see these options. They'd say, oh, yeah, I'm a sophomore, and my favorite is vanilla. So I'll submit that, and you'll see that's going to go enter in. We'll add a bunch of different choices like that. The other option I have, if I don't want to do it that way, I can go back to send up here. I could email this directly to somebody. Now, this is okay. What will happen is the receiver will have an email with that embedded right inside of it. They can answer it right there. That's pretty handy. One final option here, right here. This is my link I just shared with you guys. And this final little, looks like little brackets here. This is an embed code. So if you do have a website, you want to embed this form, this questionnaire, into a website, existing one, you can do it that way as well. So I'm going to go back here. You notice here that it changed to a 1. For responses here. That's where the one question I put in so far. I'll go back to my sample chart for a second. Share this tab. Back here, you'll see that, okay, here's my sheet 1 that I had earlier, but I also have a new one down the bottom here, form responses 1. And so this new tab was created with that form immediately. Here's the question, the grade, the favorite ice cream. You'll also notice here it says a timestamp. That's by default. You can't really remove that. That just happens. This is the exact time and date that that question was entered. That's useful because it's what creates what's called a unique identifier. Every single row, every single question will have its own unique identifier based on the exact day, time, down to the second, and that's actually technically milliseconds of when it was recorded. So this is great. Now we need to collect some data. So I would go back to my shared tab. I'd say, here's my tab. I would just go to people. Hey, I'm going to email this to my entire school. I'm just going to start clicking on things. I'm just going to enter some data just so we have something to work with. I'm not really worried about all the choices here. I'm just going to pick some stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't really have much to work with. We're going to go through. We'll do a couple more. And this is where I would share this with the, with the class. If I'm a teacher, one thing that I do as a teacher, I like to do it when I do this, is I actually have the kids pull up their form, just like this. They pull it onto their laptop or Chromebook or whatever they have, and then the students actually stand up and rotate. So the computer stays still. We don't have to worry about them walking around the room with the computer. By going from form to form, they can all enter their information. We ask questions like, what pets do you have? What's your favorite, ice cream, all that kind of stuff. The question that I was asked by the students that wanted me to help them with this topic this week was around science topics. So we're just asking what kind of favorite ice cream. You could ask anything, right? You could ask any type of topic. All right, so we'll do one more. I'm actually going to do one that we don't have. So you'll show you how that works. Let's say we want Rocky Road ice cream. Okay, so we have one that is another. So we choose that. I'll show you what that looks like. All right. So we've entered a bunch of stuff in there. We have a bunch of different entries. We'll go back to our sample chart for a second. Okay, let me share this tab. And we can see, oh, great. Now, here's the cool thing. This data entry, somebody else could enter that right now, and it would just keep filling it in. So we don't have to worry about like, oh, we're one and done. Like, as long as people have access to that link, they could just keep entering this, and this would just keep filling down further and further and further, basically forever. If you ever needed to stop it, like, okay, I don't want any more entries, we're only gonna do it for this day, whatever that is, back here on the in the edit view here, you can go to the responses right in the middle, and you can stop accepting responses. Okay. Now, one cool thing you'll notice here, just by default, it created some charts for you without you doing anything. It just responded to those. I can see right now. Now, it doesn't make much sense because it's got freshman, sophomore, junior, and which choices they had for each color. It doesn't tell me that's how many there are total, but how many freshmen like vanilla ice cream, or how many seniors like chocolate, or whatever. It doesn't give you that information. So this is okay, but let's say I need different stuff. This isn't going to work for me. That's where we're going to come back to our next stage. So we did our data collection. We created a form. We asked some questions. We collected a lot of different data. The next stage is now let's manage that. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually highlight up here. I'm going to go up from B to C. Okay. So I selected B. And again, one thing that's kind of tricky about spreadsheets, it happens a lot. I'll make a mistake and then fix it, and I'll show you. People kind of drag things sometimes, and maybe I dragged the wrong thing. Let's say I dragged this and I dragged it over here, so it made a mistake, or I'm just going to undo that. Or let's say I dragged this and I dragged it down over here and it messed up everything. Anytime you make a mistake, no big deal. You can always just click the undo and it'll go back to what it was before. So spreadsheets can be a little bit tricky that way, but as long as you're paying attention, you can always undo and undo the last thing. The other thing too, just like most Google tools here, I can click File and go down to version history, and I can see every single individual change that's been made. Every time a change is made, I can jump back and see it. So you don't really have to worry about losing anything. It's kind of every piece is stored. All right, let's make our next stage. I'm going to hold down this B and C columns right here, and that's going to highlight both of those. I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to choose what's called a pivot table. Well, what is a pivot table? Right now, if I made a chart out of the data that I have right now, grade and favorite ice cream, I could click Insert, Chart. I could do that, but that chart is not going to make much sense. Like it doesn't mean anything, right? What I need to do is I need to sum up. Let's get rid of that one. I need to sum up how many juniors there are and how many juniors like certain types of ice cream, how many sophomores there are and what types of ice cream they like. I need to sum all that things up. And again, I could do it by hand. You could do it one by one, or better yet, I could just have the computer do it for me. I'm just going to copy this data real quickly just so we have more data to work with. The more you have to work with, the better it will be, just so that it just has more to work with so you can make things. All right, I'm going to highlight these two columns here, go back to Insert, and I'm going to go down this thing called Pivot Table. I click on that. It's going to ask me, what do I want to do? I want to make a new sheet. So we have our two sheets right now. We have our intro sheet, we have our form responses sheet, and now we have this Pivot Table sheet. I'm going to click Create. Okay. What's going on here? This looks a little weird. This takes that raw data you just collected and it's going to format it for you, but you don't want to do it a certain way. So over here on the right, see where it says rows? I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that as grades. And I'm going to go down below. I'm going to turn off totals here. Go down below under columns and add my ice cream as columns. Okay. So what happened here? You notice across the top, it has all my types of ice creams across from left to right, all the columns. And going down, it has 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman, junior, senior, and sophomore. So it basically goes top to bottom. So Armageddon does that for me. The other cool thing, as I mentioned, is this will always update. So if somebody added a new entry right now, it would update in here. The next stage, after I did the row and the column over on the right, I'm going to go down to values. Oops, am I not? I'm sorry, I was on the wrong tab. I'm going to jump back a step. I'm going to jump back to this step right here because I was on the wrong tab. All right. I'm going to highlight these two columns right here. I'm going to click Insert, Pivot Table. Now this is going to make a new sheet. So let's click Create. All right. So this takes that raw data we had and creates a table out of it. Now we'll show you exactly how that works, but that table is going to be able to be summed or organized by how many juniors there are, how many sophomores there are, and so forth. So over here on the right, suggested rows and columns. Under rows, I'm going to add, we'll do ice creams as our rows. So there's our different types of ice creams: chocolate, cookie dough, Rocky Road, vanilla, and strawberry. I'm going to turn off totals. You won't need those. And then under columns, going left to right, I'm going to add the grades. So we have 7th graders, 8th graders, freshmen, and so forth. Okay, I'm going to turn off totals there too. So now we're going to add the values. Where do I want to sum up how many 7th graders like chocolate or 8th graders like cookie dough or so forth? Right now, under here, values, I'm going to click on Add, and I'm going to do a calculated field. So I want the sum of how many of each. Oops. And I want totals. Let's just do default. All right. So that gives me, if you notice here, how many sum for each one. So how many 7th graders said Rocky Road? 1. How many 8th graders said freshman, and so forth. This will give me the totals for each of those calculated fields, so I don't have to add it up myself. This is a much more interesting way of doing it, right? So I don't have to go through, and if somebody right now comes back here and adds a new thing, so let's say this freshman actually wanted chocolate. And I'm going to do a bunch of chocolate just so we can kind of see that add up. We'll go back to our pivot table, and we should be able to see it here. Let's do another value here. And why isn't that? I'm going to go back and do that part again. Let's try this one more time. We're going to add our grades, and we're going to add our ice creams, and then we're going to add our calculated field, which is the sum. Oh, you know why? There we go. Sum. Perfect. Okay. The last step of this, so we've got our columns, we've got our rows, but the last step is we're going to make that chart out of it, right? That's what we talked about. We talked about collecting data, taking the data, organizing it, getting it so it actually does the work for us by adding a pivot table. And then the last step is making that chart from it. I'm going to highlight up here where it says grade down to here. Now, I don't want to worry about the totals right now. I'm just going to highlight the text of the ice cream types and the grades. I'm going to click Insert, Chart. This is going to be more interesting, right? Because this is actually going to sort by what types of ice cream there are. I mean, we'll just move it to the side a little bit. It actually has each grade level, so seniors and which ones they chose. They chose strawberry and cookie dough, for example. So this is a little bit more reflective of that information. Now, it's a little bit hard to see. Maybe it's hard to share. If I wanted to share that with somebody else, what I would do is I would take this chart, click the 3 dots up in the upper right, and I would publish chart right here. That published chart, and click OK. Boom. I could copy and paste that and give that to somebody else. It's going to look like this. I'm going to move it to its own sheet right here. Boom. And so that's what somebody else would see. So they would see the results. Oh, the freshmen like chocolate and strawberry or whatever. The other cool thing is this published chart right now, the one I'm looking at, is live. And what I mean by that is anytime somebody adds new information, it will automatically feed the spreadsheet, which feeds this chart. So this gets updated anytime somebody opens it, and it's always the latest. And so that's how I would share this. Again, I also have that publish chart button up here as well. I can share that with other people. All right, so that's our steps. We went from collecting data using a Google form taking that information, going to a spreadsheet, which then got converted. I highlighted it, converted it into a pivot table, which looks kind of like this. And then the final step is I highlighted that information and inserted a chart, which I can then share with everybody else. And I think with that, I'm going to send it back to Jared.
All right, thank you for that presentation. Now, viewers, remember, if you find the presentation difficult to follow, remember you can always access these recordings at www.mlti.me to play, pause, and rewind. Now we're going to check in with Alex, our moderator, to see if there are any questions from the chat. So let's see, we have one question here. How do you share a chart? So Mr. Kelly, could you go ahead and take that question for us?
Absolutely, no problem at all. So let me go back to my spreadsheet here. Okay, here it is. Very good. So I've got my chart here. Let me just back. I'll make another quick chart and show you what it would look like. So let's say I have this data right here. I'm just going to highlight it. I want this data. I'm going to click Insert Chart. And here it is. Now I've got my chart kind of in a spreadsheet, and I could, I guess, share somebody the spreadsheet. That's okay. But let's say I want this, so I just want to give somebody the chart. The first thing I'm going to do is move it to its own sheet. If I click this 3 dots right here, move to its own sheet, it's going to look like this. Okay, so I see my sheet, and then from here I can publish that. I can give somebody that link. I could email that to them. I could put it on a website. I could embed it. I could even, if I wanted to, download this chart. If I click download right here, I could download an image of this or a PDF. Those will give me the latest. One of the cool things, as I mentioned, is if I do publish this chart, and let's say I do, I embed it into a website, it will be the latest version of this chart at any time. Anytime anybody adds something, you'll always see the latest, which is kind of cool.
All right, thank you for coming on the show and teaching us about making a chart with Google Sheets. And now, Slammers, get ready to click the link in the chat to take the SLAM exam, a one-question quiz about today's show topic. You will have until the next episode to answer the question and be entered in the prize drawing. Only your first entry will count, and the others will be removed. Then we'll announce the winner in the next episode. That way, everyone has a chance to take the SLAM exam, even if you're not able to join us live. Now, we'll give you a code for you to type in so everyone has the same amount of time. But the SLAM exam question from last episode was, what do you call the lighted panel on the top of the Sphero? Was it the light field, the screen, or the matrix? And the correct answer is matrix. And the winner is AH from rsu19.net. So congratulations on that. The SLAM team will reach out to you to get that prize to you. So be sure to be checking your email. Now, before we ask this week's SLAM exam question, let's check out this week's SLAM demo.
And today I'm going to be going over a game with you guys called Interland. So in order to get to Interland, you're going to want to go to beinternetawesome.com, and then Interland should come up below. It'll say play Interland. You can do that. So what Interland is it's a website that's going to help you be safe on the internet and make good decisions. So the game we want isn't Kind Kingdom, or level we want isn't Kind Kingdom. We're going to want to go to the side until we get to Reality River. What Reality River is going to do is it's going to help us not fall for fake news or scams or stuff and make good decisions. So we hit play.
The river that runs through Interland flows with fact and fiction. But things aren't always as they seem. Cross the rapids by using your best judgment. Watch out for fishers lurking in the water. They'll try to trick you. Get to the other side of the river. Correctly answer questions on each platform.
So it's going to ask us a bunch of different subject line that is obviously a scam. So what are you going to want to do if you get an email it's a scam? So we're going to hit play, and it's going to come up with 3 options for us. If you use your arrow keys, you can look. So we'll start at the left. So it says, LOL, forward it to your friends for a laugh, but tell them not to click anything. So this obviously isn't a good option because you never want to forward a scam to someone else in case they do accidentally click or something. So we're going to go to the next one. It says, Avoid clicking any links and mark it as spam. That also seems like a good option because you're marking it as spam, so it won't, and no more emails will come to you, and you're not clicking any links. And the third option is to delete it and forget about it. So this seems like a fairly good option, right? Let's click that. Delete it and forget about it. Oh no, we got it wrong. So it's good to recognize that it's a scam, but it's even better to report it. So what we're going to want to do then is to avoid clicking any links and to mark it as spam so that it won't, spacebar to jump. All right, so we got it right. So now you'd move on to the next question and so on until you get to the other side. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you can enjoy this game and make safe decisions on the internet.
All right, thanks for the information about that website, Drew. And now let's get ready for the SLAM exam. Our moderator will put the link in the chat, or if you're not watching this live, of course, visit mlti.me and click the SLAM exam link at the top to enter your answer. Now, you can only enter once anytime before next week's show. The passcode for this episode is 274. And the SLAM exam question is, what is the Sheets feature called that summarizes data for you? Is it pivot, table, info table, or lunch table? Okay, now we will announce the winner randomly select from all correct answers next episode, so good luck. Now, on a programming note, we will be off next week for the break. We hope everyone has a terrific break, and we'll see you in the new year. So thanks, everyone, for joining today's MLTI Slam Show, the last Slam Show of 2022. Thanks to our presenter, Mr. Kelly, our moderator, Alex, and director, Aiden. Now, Slammers, if you have questions, would like to make comments, or share the work you created today on the show, visit www.mlti.me and contact us. Now, those of you in the live stream right now, stick around for the after show live discussion. Student Leadership Ambassador, stay curious. We'll see you next time. The MLTI Slam Show is a program of the Maine Department of Education. For more information about this and other innovative educational initiatives, please visit www.maine.gov/DOE.